Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm a Boeing 737 pilot, and in this video I'm going to explain to you the differences between noise abatement procedures number 1 and 2 and when you would fly which procedure. I'm also going to show you one special hybrid noise abatement procedures that some airlines use in some cases. The entirety of this video is based on what we do at my airline, unless explicitly stated otherwise, so if something in this video is not 100% in accordance with the ICAO PANSOPS documents, then that is to be expected. However, be aware that my airline standards fully comply with the ICAO documents. So, there are two different noise abatement procedures available, NADP1 and NADP2. NADP1 is designed to meet the close-in noise abatement objective, while NADP2 is designed to meet the distant noise abatement objective. In this video I'm going to give you an example of a takeoff in Düsseldorf where we are going to use NADP2, which is designed for distant noise abatement, and at the end of the video we will do a takeoff at an airport that is using NADP1, which is designed for close-in noise abatement. Now, our first airport is going to be Düsseldorf, and if we look at Google Earth we can immediately see why we want to use NADP2 over here. It is designed to meet the distant noise abatement objective, and looking at Google Earth it quickly becomes clear why that is the case. We take off on runway 23 left, and our entire departure route basically leads us over populated areas. Therefore, close by to the airport, it is basically always going to be noisy. However, a little bit further from the airport, even if we zoom out, you see that there is more and more centers of population here, regardless of where you would fly. So we want to keep it as quiet as possible in those centers of population that are far away from the airport. The other airport we are going to use today is going to be Berlin. And in Berlin, we use noise abatement procedure number 1 in order to keep it as quiet as possible, as close as possible to the airport. So let's have a look at how the environment around Berlin looks like then. This is Berlin-Brandenburg Airport, and our departure routes are leading us somewhere over here. As you can see, there is of course the city up to the north, but the routes are designed not to overfly that anyway. So apart from the city in the north, there is a lot of flat country without any cities around the area. So that means that we want to try and avoid as much noise as possible while we are close by the airport, so that we can minimize the overall noise impact. So let's have a look into how the different noise abatement procedures are flown. We're going to start with NADP number 2, which is the one that is used the most. The default NADP that most airlines use is NADP2 because it saves a little bit more fuel because the flaps are not extended for as long. However, in some parts of the world outside the EU and the US, NADP1 would be the standard that you find operated. But more on that later. So, noise abatement procedure number 2, which is the default in the areas where I fly and the default in the US, so probably the most relevant for most viewers of the channel, is flown like this. You are going to take off and do your initial climb at V2 until V2 plus 20, and 1,000 feet above the departure aerodrome elevation, we are going to start accelerating and retracting the flaps until we reach the flaps up maneuvering speed, which is basically the flap up speed on the speed indicator. From there on, at 1,500 feet, we're going to reduce the thrust to climb thrust, and we'll maintain the flaps up speed until we are 3,000 feet above the departure field elevation. Over there, we're going to accelerate the airplane to our en route climb speed of mostly 250 knots below 10,000 feet. Now, there are some variations on this. The minimum required for acceleration according to ICAO is 800 feet. However, most airlines use 1,000 feet. And there is a difference as well in how airlines treat the acceleration segment after the flaps are retracted. In my airline, we maintain the flaps up maneuvering speed until 3000 feet above the departure field elevation, and then we continue accelerating. Other airlines might, however, when using noise abatement procedure 2, keep accelerating all the way to 250 knots right from 1000 feet onwards. So they basically climb at V2 plus 20 to 1000 feet above the field elevation and then accelerate until 250 knots while retracting the flaps and reducing thrust to climb thrust, either at 1000 or at 1500 feet. So why is this meeting distant noise abatement requirements then? Well, of course, close to the airport you're going to spend more time while you're flying closer to the ground when you're accelerating at 1000 feet. This means that close by the airport, noise levels are going to increase. For simplification, we can assume that the noise levels are going to be directly proportional to the distance to the aircraft, and therefore, at lower altitudes, it's going to be louder. However, the positive effect of this is that the flaps are retracted early, and therefore, as soon as the flaps are retracted, the airplane is going to resume a steeper climb gradient than it would otherwise do. Therefore, at a place that is distant from the airport, it is going to be quieter because the airplane is going to be higher than when using NADP1. So this was NADP2. Now let's talk about NADP1. Flying noise abatement departure procedure number 1, we are going to maintain V2 to V2 plus 20 all the way until 3000 feet. However, at 1500, we are going to reduce thrust from takeoff thrust to climb thrust already. We keep the flaps extended while maintaining V2 to V2 plus 20 until 3000 above the departure field elevation, and then we're going to accelerate, retract the flaps on schedule, and accelerate towards our en route climb speed of usually 250 knots below flight level 100. This procedure is designed to meet the close-in noise abatement objective, and the way it does it is that since you keep climbing with the flaps extended, you are going to climb to a higher altitude when close by the airport, and thereby you are going to reduce the noise emissions on places that are close to the airport. Alright, that much about the theory. Now that we have talked about this, there is one more thing that we quickly have to mention, and that is how do we find out which NADP to use then? I can recommend you either to read the general section of the charts that you are using. In some cases, there is a noise abatement requirement specified in there, or to use the website of fellow YouTuber Blackbox711, who has set up some airport briefings that include NADP requirements. So let's have a look at his website. It's going to be linked in the video description below. And this is what it looks like. You go onto airport infos, and then let's take an example of a briefing of Düsseldorf. And this is what it looks like. And on here we can see NADP2 is the required noise abatement procedure. So that way you can find out which NADP to use. Now let's go ahead and demonstrate what NADP2 looks like when applied in action. We are set up on runway 23 left, and we are pretty much all ready to go. The brakes are released, the lights are on. So, timing. And keep in mind, we are going to retract the flaps from about 1000 feet onwards, and then continue at that speed until 3000 feet. Stabilized, set takeoff thrust, takeoff thrust set, indications normal. $80 knots, checked. V1. Rotate. Gear up. Positive rate. Okay, reaching 1,000 feet above the field elevation. Buck up. Flaps 1. Okay, 1,500 feet. We are reducing thrust towards climb thrust. Flaps up. And now we're going to maintain the flaps up maneuvering speed all the way until we are 3,000 feet above the departure field elevation. Once we reach 3,000 feet, we are going to continue our acceleration, and in our case, in my airline, we do it by switching onto VNAV, and that is going to command the acceleration for us. So we're 3,000 above the departure field, VNAV, and now we continue the acceleration. So this is how to fly a noise abatement departure procedure number 2. Now let's head over to Berlin to fly an NADP number 1. We are now located on runway 25 left at Berlin-Brandenburg Airport, and we are going to fly an NADP number 1 over here. So let's quickly revise the procedure. We're going to maintain V2 to V2 plus 20 until we are 3,000 feet above the departure field elevation. We will reduce thrust to climb thrust again at 1,500 feet, and only when reaching 3,000 we are going to accelerate and retract the flaps, and once the flaps are showing up no lights, we are going to engage VNAV and then continue the climb at the en route speed. Note that you can use VNAV for the takeoff at any moment with both NADPs, provided you set the correct acceleration height on the takeoff reference page 2. Okay, so we are all ready to go now. Let's go ahead and fly our NADP number 1. Stabilized. Set takeoff thrust. Takeoff thrust set, indications normal. 80 knots. Rotate. Gear up. All on freight. So we're at 1,500 feet, the thrust is reducing towards climb thrust. But we are still going to maintain the speed where it is. Departure field elevation was 160 feet, so at 3,160 we can now buck up and then start the flap retraction on schedule. Flaps 1. And flaps up. Flaps up, no lights. VNAV. And now we start the acceleration towards 250 knots. So that is how we fly the noise abatement departure procedures in my airline. Of course, Life would be too easy if that was it, so let me show you one more NADP, which is a hybrid between NADP1 and NADP2 that is used in a couple places which have, let's just call it, special noise abatement requirements. So let's go ahead and go over to Cologne, where I'm going to show you the hybrid noise abatement departure procedure. Here we are at Cologne Bonn Airport. We are currently located on runway 14 left, and they use noise abatement procedure number 2, but with the acceleration at 1,500 feet above the aerodrome elevation over here. The reason they do this is because they have noise sensitive areas both close in and far out from the airport. Let's take a quick look at Google Earth to show you what that actually looks like. We're currently located over here, and our sit is going to take us somewhere over here. And as you can see, there are villages nearby in form of Loma over here, but then we also have villages all the way scattered through the terrain over here. So they kinda needed to find a compromise between the two. So they said, okay, so you are simply going to accelerate at 1,500 feet, providing a little bit of relief to the people living in Loma nearby, and then also to the people living in the villages further off. So on this one, we're going to start accelerating at 1,500 feet, and this is the last of the 3 noise abatement variations. There are some local variations at some airports. For example, in Barcelona you would accelerate at 3,500 feet, but those are going to be detailed in the airfield briefing packages that your operator provides you, or in the airfield general charts that you get from Navigraph. So, with that last procedure, let's go. We are currently set up for the departure. One more takeoff, and then we've got it. Stabilized, set takeoff thrust. Takeoff thrust set, indications normal. $80 knots, checked.
V1.
Rotate. Gear up. A nice little reminder for you when you reach the 1,500 feet is at 1,500 you will see the auto throttle transitioning from ARM mode into N1 mode. So by the time we reach that, we can then buck up and start the acceleration. Here you go, auto throttle is in N1. And we are now starting the acceleration and retracting the flaps, which then completes our look at the different noise abatement departure procedures. I would like to thank you very much for watching, hope that you have learned something today, and I'm very much looking forward to reading your comments. In the meantime, if you want to support the channel, you can do that using the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below, or by becoming a channel member, which is going to grant you exclusive early access to new videos before they are released to the general public. Okay, flaps up. Now we are going to maintain the upspeed until we reach 3,000 feet above the departure field elevation, and by the time we have reached that elevation, we can then engage VNAV and continue the acceleration towards the en route climb speed. So, thank you very much for watching, everybody. I hope that you've learned something today, and I'm very much looking forward to welcome you all again on a future video. Bye now.